Archers are so back in Rise of Kingdoms that we need to talk about how this changes your open field pairings. What 5, 6, 7, or if you're starting out, 3 marches should you run in the open field? And on the topic of things that are new and powerful, let me thank the sponsor of this video who just released a sick new class in Diablo Immortal. Diablo Immortal has a sick new class, the Druid, and today I get to give you an early access look at the gameplay. You see, earlier this month, Blizzard flew me out to their headquarters and gave me the red carpet treatment. I got 2 days of unlimited access to this sweet new class. So here's what you need to know about the Druid coming to Diablo Immortal. Just like in other Diablo games, in Diablo Immortal, you're going to slay demonic hellspawn, discover sick loot, and level up to unlock new abilities. The Druid has many sweet skills to help you descend into the depths of hell, and obviously my favorite of those capabilities was shapeshifting. The savage werewolf form brings huge DPS and movement. That said, my preferred method of destruction was the unhinged and raw strength of the werebear, who will literally pick up and smash your enemies together like they're freaking ragdolls. And when you're not shapeshifting, you'll be unleashing nature's fury as you harness the powers of earth and fire. Literally, there's like a fiery tornado of doom. Would not recommend standing in it. Did I mention, by the way, that you can also summon beasts to fight by your side? Wolves and bears were obviously my favorite. Diablo Immortal is available on PC or mobile, and you can even play with a controller. Use the link in the description to download, and if you want to see the full breakdown of this sick new class, check out the long form video, which I'm going to include in a card at the end of this vid. Thank you again, Blizzard Entertainment, for sponsoring this video. Let's start with our first 3 open field pairs. If you're only bringing 3 armies, it should be one of each of the main troop types: infantry, cavalry, and archers. And I would argue that right now, archers are more powerful than ever. Now, if you're bringing one archer march, the best archer march is going to be QSH with Zhuge Liang, obviously. But the thing that I think is really exciting is that Yi Song is also so back in action. I would not fault you if you were in the early game to, of course, have worked on Yi Song. Then when QSH shows up, you bring him into the mix. You don't have Zhuge Liang yet. So either way you want to run those archers is a win. And I would argue right now the archers are the actual best you can do in the game, which is crazy because just before that, we had gotten BQ, the absolutely insane over-the-top infantry commander, and I thought, oh, well, you can't do any better than the infantry right now with BQ and Liu Che, which is the infantry march I'm going to recommend in the pincer formation, ideally. Which brings us to cavalry, and wow, I mean, 2 ways you can run this. One is going to be the very conventional route, which I think most people will tell you, well, just use Huo, bring in Arthur, and you're cooking with gas. And I agree that that is a powerful thing to do. However, look, if you have Wedge, which most early game players will, I mean, that's a safe way to go. I like it. I respect it. I think the better way to run this initially is actually going to be to run Philip as a secondary to Arthur and use combo, I think. I look, if you run the Huo variant, it's going to do great. If you run the Arthur combo variant with the Philip secondary, it's going to do great. Honestly, you have a lot of options here, and the thing I like the most about the Philip approach here is that Philip is the better longer-term investment in the game right now than the Huo, who is locked into being the primary commander if you're going to use him. So I think this is the combination of like the realistic and best way to sort of set up your first 3 marches. Now, if you're expanding into more marches, I don't think archers are my priority. So even though archers are the absolute freaking jam right now for the best march in the game, I don't know that I would say, oh yeah, just give me more archers as the priority. I think I still would point you to the other troop types. Now, if that's what you're up to, I think Huo comes into the mix. Okay? Now, I don't think, I'm not trying to say the 4th best march is cavalry, so I'm gonna put him down here. We're gonna pair William with him for now. And I will just point out that Joan would also work. Like, you got great things you can do with your calves, okay? I think that infantry at this moment in time is the better pick for a fourth march. If you are kind of going in order for like, what do I add next? I think a second infantry march is looking really good. And what I think you have to do there in an ideal world would be Ragnar primary and Skippy secondary. Very powerful, lots of skill damage. My only hesitation here, and I do have a huge hesitation, is that I don't know what the future of skill damage will be for infantry. It's unclear to me. I generally am an oracle for what comes next. I have absolutely no clue what direction the developers will go with infantry. None whatsoever. We had Smite commanders show up, and then we got more Smite commanders, and I thought we would get a skill damage variant on there. We didn't. So skill damage may be a dead end, but if you want the best of the best right now, that's what you're going to do. And that's how you get your way up to 5 armies. Now, I do think it's important that Philip is in the lineup somewhere. I don't think that Philip goes well with Huo, which is why I thought splitting off the Arthur and running Philip together like that was a pretty clever way to run it. I also think long-term, we are going to end up with some open field combo cavalry commander, and you're going to pair with Arthur anyways. So setting up for combo feels like a long-term W, but you let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And as I mentioned with Rage, either the William or the Joan are a very powerful addition. I have found both of them to work with Huo. Between the two, I actually prefer William, which is kind of funny because even though technically his skill damage is lower, he's got instant proc damage, which is disgusting, and his buff that he provides the team of 50 rage per second for 3 seconds and 20% defense when you hit with your AoE damage is gross. So the idea behind this is that Huo is going to have a lower rage cost on your skill cycle, which means you're going to fire off William pretty quickly and start to pump out the rage and the defense to the rest of your team, which your QSH is really going to enjoy, okay? Up top over here. He's really going to benefit from that. Now we talk about, all right, well, we're going to 6 marches, baby. What do we do? And there's an important concept that is easy to understand, okay? And the simple truth of it is that you can't really move around your equipment at all. At all. Okay? So once you lock into legendary equipment, it's GG, no re-re. You lose like a ton of your materials if you try to dismantle it. Which, you know, I struggle with that personally because I want to like try lots of different things and do different stuff, but you get locked in. So the safest thing you can do when you get to 6 marches is to either say, actually, I'm like a 5 march guy and I'm going to run a siege march periodically, okay? And so I just want to point out that that is something you can do, and there's the siege march, these two together. Gross. Very powerful. You use the range formation, obviously, and it's a great way to add versatility. So if you're like not really ready to run 6 marches all the time in the field, but you want something that you bring in for the right situations, I would say siege or that play. You can do that for your 4th march, as your 5th march, as your 6th or your 7th, but I don't want you to think it's the same as having a field march that can just run around with full movement and full versatility. It's really not. And there's situations where you will hear people say in voice, at least in the kingdoms I play in, like, don't bring siege for this, right? This is not a time for siege. Or they will say, now bring your siege, right? When they're good, they're good. When they're hot, they're hot. And when you're not really trying to move, you know, when you need to move around a lot, they're not so great. But to lock in on what I was saying, 2-2-2 means we have our 2 infantry, we have our 2 cavalry, we need a second archer combination. This means at this point, if you were using the Zhuge Liang, right, you're going to split them off. Otherwise, if you were using the Yi-Song, now's the time to go work on your Zhuge Liang. I don't know why it's so impossible to drag everything in this tier maker this morning. Okay, so now we go Zhuge Liang, Hermann Prime. Easy choices, okay? And we're in a great spot here with our lineup. So for the 2 archers, we have QSH with Yi-Song. You're going to need a lot of rage on that composition. Full rage build. We'll talk about talents later. Over here, Zhuge Liang, Hermann Prime. It's an oldie but goodie. Does it get beat up a lot? Yes. But you got to have your Zhuge. I do think that Hermann Prime is still incredibly valuable for the debuff, even though that value has diminished greatly due to the addition of combo and smite being so popular, is what it is. Now, we talk about how to get to a 7th March. You have 3 options for a 7th March. I think the most versatile, but also the highest risk option is leadership. I say it's high risk because this is one of those things where, like, I could not for the life of me predict what the direction of leadership is going to be. Absolutely no clue whatsoever what the direction of leadership, equipment, and armament, and that situation, none whatsoever for what that direction will be, okay? Because even if you go with a leadership commander and the gear is leadership, which means you can use different troop types, armaments don't do that. So there's like this huge anti-synergy. I don't know the answer. Genuinely, no clue whatsoever. But what I can point to is the fact that with infantry at this moment in time, there are very powerful things you can do. So if I'm going to carve off Philip for a leadership approach, that means that we're going to need to shift some stuff around. I think that William with Arthur is incredibly powerful. One of my favorite marches in the open field. Combo is a form of a basic attack. William has instant proc damage. Now all your combo attacks have a chance to trigger that instant proc damage. Huge. Absolutely amazing. As I said long ago, the thing you want to do with combo damage is find abilities that have a low internal cooldown and a low % chance of triggering. So a 10% chance to trigger, perfect. And it's like a, 3-second internal cooldown or something like that for how often you can get that instant proc damage to trigger? Perfect. That's the goal, okay? So now we got to carve off an infantry commander. We're going to take BQ, make him the secondary. I use this. I'm pretty sure it was doing better for me than BQ Liu Che. It is possible that if I had pincer formation instead of arch, maybe the BQ Liu Che would have done better than the Philip with BQ. But like this combination, I used echelon formation. I was buffing the heck out of my team, and I was getting wicked reports. Sure. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Before that, I was using Philip and Ragnar, and I was using a skill damage approach. This is tiers above it in terms of its performance, in my opinion, which means we still need to go back and do another infantry commander. Now, funny enough, I hadn't pulled them forward, but I need to go find CJ and pull him from the sort of depths of irrelevance. And like, dude, he got a rework, and oh my God, is he an absolutely viable option now? Where is he hiding? I'm commander blind. Okay, there he is. He was in the front row. GG. So you have options here. If you are going pincer, the CJ is going to be the better pick with Liu Che. A lot of people will have worked on Alex in the early game, and they'll go arch, and Liu Che Alex absolutely slaps. A lot of great ways you can run the infantry. I think this is a awesome way to break it out, all right? So if you're going to go with the leadership approach for your 7th March, which is in a way very versatile, in a way also extremely risky because the leadership direction is so unclear to me, I would say that this is the way to go. This is what I personally have done. I don't have the leadership equipment. Well, I sort of do. It's infantry, equipment, talented leadership. I'm forced this way. I did really want Philip with Shajar to work. I had the artifact, so I switched her over to infantry, and I found this combo to be extremely lackluster. Could have just been an issue on my end, but I couldn't get it to work. So this is the way that I wanted Shajar to work. I wanted to believe, and I just couldn't get it to go, man. I don't know. Maybe I just did something wrong. But now we can look at a couple other things here, which is to say, okay, well, Chisquel, I don't believe in leadership, or I'm not committing to it, or I don't have it, or I don't want to. Like, take your pick of objections. All totally understandable. If you want to go with one extra pair of full pure infantry, should have started there before I moved all these commanders out of here. You have a couple options, okay? If you're going with a pure infantry route, Then I think one route that I really like is Liu Che Philip, and then BQ with CJ. Honestly, there's like so many ways to run this. It's like kind of jaw-dropping what you could do. Another way that you could run this is you could run Liu Che Alex. That means you need a home for your Philip. Philip goes over here, okay? You can move your William back over. Like, there's so many ways you could slice it up. CJ steps in with the BQ. You could bring in actually William, okay? And you could run William, who I have not mentioned up to this point, but he's also an amazing addition. And you could run him with Liu Che. So many options for infantry. I would say at this moment in time, infantry have the most options of any troop type in the game. And let me tell you, as an infantry player, I am here for it. Now, if we reset and we line up, well, what could we do with instead of triple infantry? Let's go triple archer, okay? We just got archers into the game. Surely there's a way to go triple archer. And like, of course there is. Now we bring in Ashurbanipal, pair with Hermann Prime. We put Philip over here with Zhuge Liang, okay? We bring the William back with the Arthur. Cooking with gas. There it is. Shajar is not what it is, though. This is the way that I would run 3x archers. There's really no... I mean, maybe there's some other way to slice it, but you let me know down below in the comments what you would do with archers other than this. I mean, there's like Nebu, but he's like weaker. Ashurbanipal. I think this is kind of where it's at if you're going to run triple archer. And this brings us to triple cavalry. So let's get the archers back the way they were. If you're going to run triple cavs, you're definitely going to need to be running Philip with those cavalry. And what are we doing here? Like, are we bringing back Nevsky? Is it Belly Prime? Who are we running these days for triple cavalry? I mean, the Arthur with Philip is incredibly powerful. I think also William would be really good there, but I think what you end up doing is something like this, perhaps. I really like Huo and William together. They just cook. And then, you know, Nevsky and Joan have been great for a long time. Weirdly enough, I think the triple cavalry situation might be the situation I'm least confident in. And in a way that kind of makes sense because cavalry are due for some new commanders, right? Like, cavalry got the first of the OP upgrades in the form of Arthur. Then we got BQ. Then we got QSH. And if they just keep ramping the power level, which they seem to be doing, then like new busted cavalry incoming, and we'll see what that looks like real soon. But that covers all the different breakdowns from 3 to 4 to 7 pairings, including whether or not you want to run siege or leadership or 3 of one troop type. But now let's do the talent checkup. And this part is important because every now and then you might find, oh wait, hey, I don't have the right talents. Let me show you what I'm using. Let's start with the archers because they're the newest addition to the game here with QSH. And what talents you use here is going to matter tremendously on who you pair with. If you pair with Zhuge Liang, then what you're going to use, oh my goodness, I don't actually have this build handy, is a build that is going to look like this, mostly in the archer tree, if you have Zhuge Liang, all right? Technically, actually, I've done this wrong. You're going to need to get Razor Sharp as the priority. You don't have to prioritize that, I suppose. But you're going to run something like this, all right? If you use Zhuge Liang. If you're using Yisong, you're going to be running something like this. I made a full video about this. It's a very detailed topic. All the card up in the top and in the end screen as well, okay? If you're running a Zhuge Liang primary, you're going to go back to that standard archer open field build focusing on rage generation. Same is true for your Ashurbanipal. Archers are locked up, baby. Easy. Cavalry are also really easy to talk through the talents. That is largely because this build over here is what you're going to use on your Huo. This is what you're going to use on your Nevsky if you're running a Nevsky primary for like Nevsky Joan. Nevsky's really kind of fallen out of favor in the last 6 months or so. And yeah, we've just gotten some really powerful commanders. Like, for example, one of those powerful commanders is going to be Arthur. Now, if you ran Arthur as the primary, let me switch over to my main account. I'll show you the talents I'm using. So the choices in the cavalry tree are about the same. Like, we're trying to take the damage mitigation up top over here. And, you know, extra damage to archers, a little bit of rage gen. But I do go all the way over for this bonus combo damage. Kind of debatable. Whenever you launch a combo attack, there's a chance to trigger extra combo damage. It's debatable because, like, I only have one combo commander. Very debatable. This is going to get a lot better when we get more combo commanders. I go for this over here. When you get low, you reduce the damage you take. I find that works incredibly well. I tend to run it down all the way in the field, so I like that. I don't like, in this instance, dealing more combo damage while taking more combo damage. You could, I suppose, carve off these points and put them in other things in the cavalry tree here, like you can get some stats and some march speed. That would also be super reasonable, right? And that locks up the cavalry talents, which brings us to the infantry talents. And oh my god, do you just have so many different things you can do? We're going to start with the infantry skill damage route with the Ragnar specifically. He does damage over time. Latent power enhances damage over time effects. If you don't know what a damage over time effect is, the wording here for me has always been a bit confusing, but it is, let's see here, additional damage every second. Anytime you see something like that, then you're looking at damage over time that gets influenced by latent power, all right? He does a lot of damage over time. That's what you want to go for him, all right? You could do a variant of this where you prioritize march speed instead. Not what I'm going to recommend. This is what I use, money where my mouth is. Okay, from here, we talk about if you use BQ as the primary, which I would recommend a build like you see here. This build's giving you a little bit of march speed. You are still getting the ability to reduce the rage of your enemy, assuming that you are pairing with 2 smite commanders and you're using him as the primary, like a Liu Che secondary. I think this is going to be really, really great. On the topic of a Liu Che secondary, we do need to talk about what if he's the primary. If he's the primary, this is a build that I found works incredibly well. We're going for the extra normal damage dealt, but reducing skill damage. If you're using Alex as the secondary, this works incredibly well. You could also run this build if you're running a Philip as a secondary. Super powerful. You take effortless. I like this build more than going in for elite soldiers. Elite soldiers is not that many stat points, and you'd rather have the health anyways. And I think that is still true even with the changes to crystal technology. You could make an argument for a build more like this, potentially, but I'm not convinced. I find that Fight to the Death is very powerful. I do have this marked as a Canyon build, where if you're tanking damage in Canyon, you don't really want to be taking the more damage. In that instance, it is worse. But otherwise, I would kind of stick with the main build over here. It's what I run. Now, have we covered all of the infantry primaries? Actually, I think we kind of have. I mean, if you're using Guan, who he's off my list, here's the build I'm using for what it's worth. Very similar to the Ragnar Prime build. But what I wanted to show you is the Philip build. There are 2 of these that you could use if you're going to run a leadership primary. All right. What I'm doing over here is a march speed manipulation approach. You can see I've taken the talents to do that. I think that is a pretty powerful thing to do. If you're running with Shajar, which I don't recommend, this is the build that you're going for because you want the extra attack when you heal. And then lastly, I did play around with the non-march speed manipulation build, where when you get low, you're getting more punchy. 12% attack is actually very meaningful. You're below 50% though, and Philip doesn't really care about attack all that much. Your secondary commander, BQ, does. But at the end of the day, like, he's just here to, like, live. You know what I mean? And, like, the longer he's sticking around, the more stuff he's doing. Enhancing the attack, like, again, it's like nice. I'm not saying this well, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that unlike other commander pairings where both the primary and the secondary are there for huge damage, you only have, in the way I run a leadership march, one commander that's there for the big damage. Therefore, I skew towards trying to shove utility things onto this march. It's why I use echelon formation. My echelon armaments are hiding. We're hiding on my canyon lineup over here. Okay. But, yeah, no, these are very powerful. This is yet another reason, if you go this route with the buffing approach, that you're not really there for the damage, right? You want to do damage, but like, I'm going for the utility of that debuff. That's the route I've been going, and I've been pretty happy with that. And because it's a talented stack with other forms of march speed manipulation. GG. You enjoyed the vid? Throw a like on here, subscribe. Big thank you again to the makers of Diablo Immortal. That's Blizzard Entertainment, who flew me out to their headquarters and rolled out the red carpet treatment. If you want to see the new druid class, which as of the time of this recording has gone live today, check the card over here. You can see my full experience visiting their headquarters and playing the brand new class in Diablo Immortal. Thank you again, Blizzard Entertainment, for sponsoring this vid.